What's up, movie fans? Guys, the biggest movie of the year, I guess the biggest movie in 2 years, Spider-Man No Way Home, released into theaters finally, and I just saw it yesterday, and it was crazy. We have a lot to talk about today. Quickly, if you haven't seen this movie, the first half of this video is going to be spoiler free. I will tell you when to leave. The second half of this video is going to be filled with spoilers, and trust me when I tell you, you do not want things to get spoiled for you with this movie. Yeah, I'll tell you when to leave. So let's get into some spoiler-free thoughts on this movie. I'm just gonna tell you all the good things, all the bad things, and my final score, and then we're going to get into spoilers. Starting with everything I liked about this movie. So, my very last video on this channel was talking about everything that worried me about Spider-Man No Way Home. My two biggest concerns going into this movie were I was scared they weren't going to, there was going to be too much going on and the movie was going to be overstuffed. The other concern I had was I was scared they were going to ruin characters like Doc Ock and Sandman, who had been redeemed in the original Spider-Man movies, and I am happy to report that neither of those concerns actually happened here. I don't think the movie felt too overstuffed or convoluted. I think that everything that happened here actually felt natural, and the way they managed to tie all of the plot lines in together, it made the movie feel a lot less stuffed than it should be. With the villains, I actually really liked almost all of the villains here. Starting with the two I was worried about, Doc Ock and Sandman, I think that the way they explained them turning evil again was pretty reasonable. They have clear motivations here. I really liked Doc Ock here. He's just as menacing as he was in Spider-Man 2, but just like in that movie, there's also a layer of, good beneath it. Peter's trying to unearth that, and I really liked how they used him here. It felt like the same character from Spider-Man 2. It was really well done. And I really liked Sandman too. I was more worried about how they were going to explain Sandman turning evil again, and I think the way that they did it was actually pretty well done and pretty interesting. Then the other two villains that I really liked here were, first off, Electro. He was great here, surprisingly so, because I didn't like him in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I thought in that movie he was way too over the top and just cartoonishly evil, weird, strange villain. And here, he was a lot more grounded. I thought that he was a lot more well done here than he was in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And there is one villain here that I didn't like, but we'll get to him later. But so with all the villains that I liked, they all paled in comparison to Green Goblin. Holy crap, Green Goblin is amazing in this movie. Easily one of the best MCU villains ever. He is so well done here. Just has such a threatening, menacing presence throughout the movie. The way that he, fights Spider-Man here, and the way that he, torture Spider-Man in this movie. A lot of people have said this, and I agree with them here. It actually reminds you a lot of Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that in the spoiler section, but for now, Green Goblin is amazing here. Moving on, let's talk about Spider-Man himself. Let's talk about Peter. I never want to hear anyone complain about Peter being Iron Boy Jr. or not having any of his Spider-Man life have consequences on his normal life. Those two complaints are complaints I've heard so many times about the MCU's version of Peter, and they are just not true at all here. First off, Iron Man has very little to do with the plot of this movie. Like, some of the villains use Stark technology, that's shown in the trailers, and yes, that's here, but it really is a small part of this movie. It doesn't even acknowledge Iron Man that much. He has, like, zero impact on the plot of this movie. And so Peter really is able to come into his own here. He is his own character in this movie. The way that they develop him in the story is so well done. His life as Spider-Man really does have effect on his normal life, and like every single action he makes as Spider-Man has consequences in the movie, and I really like what they did with him. I'm pretty sure in my ranking of all the MCU heroes that I did a few months back, I'm pretty sure I put him at number 4 below Black Widow, who was at number 3. I'm changing that. I want to put the MCU's version of Spider-Man above Black Widow in the top 3 MCU heroes, because this movie develops him so well. He is so well done here. So now, moving on to some of the other characters that I really liked here. Doctor Strange, like, he's pretty good here. He isn't really in the movie that much. He doesn't have that big of an effect on things. He's in the movie the same way that Iron Man was in Homecoming, or Skrull Nick Fury was in Far From Home. He's there to kind of just be an MCU side character who's fun and, like, affects the story occasionally. He doesn't have that much screen time here. But yeah, I really liked how they used him here. He was pretty good. MJ, Ned, Happy, and Aunt May are amazing in this movie. The way that they're used in the story here to push along Peter's arc is so great. I've always liked Ned, MJ, and Happy. I've never had problems with their characters. But with Aunt May, I've always felt like in Homecoming and Far From Home, she wasn't that great. Like, she didn't have that big of an effect on what was going on. But here, she is amazing. She is a great character here. The way that they use all of these side characters with Peter's arc is so well done. There are just so many things in this movie that I'm saying are so well done, because they are. The movie has a lot of emotion. I'm not even kidding here when I say I cried in one scene in the movie, and I almost cried twice. Like, this movie is really emotional. It's also really funny. Like, there are a lot of really funny parts in this movie. The interactions between a lot of the villains and how they're relating to what happened in each of their universes. I thought that was really fun. There's a lot of really funny things in this movie, really emotional things. It makes you feel everything that you want to feel while watching a Spider-Man movie. So now, getting into some of the things that I did not like here. First off, I mentioned, like, that I liked most of the villains earlier, but yeah, there was one villain that I didn't mention, and that is Lizard. I don't really like what they did with Lizard here. With all the other villains, they had, like, clear motivations, and I thought that they had a lot of screen time. They were all developed pretty well. Not Lizard. He definitely does not have as much screen time or effect on the plot as the other villains. And he definitely doesn't have as clear motivations as the other villains. So I felt like they kind of underused him. He could have been used better here. And then my other problem with this movie, and this is the one thing with this whole movie that I just absolutely hated. And that was how they explained why all the villains were crossing over. What they say doesn't make any sense when you think about some of the villains that have come over. And I'll explain that more in my spoiler section, which we are about to get into. So overall, Spider-Man No Way Home is a really good movie. You should definitely go see it if you haven't already. I'm legitimately giving it a 9 out of 10. It was really good. Just please go see it. And if you haven't seen it, leave right now. You do not want anything spoiled. If you are a Marvel fan, and if you're especially a Spider-Man fan, and you love, like, every single Spider-Man movie that's ever been released, you do not want anything ruined for you. You need to watch this movie. So, we're about to go into spoilers. I warned you, like, please leave if you haven't seen the movie, seriously. So, getting into spoilers. Tobey and Andrew are in the movie. Oh my gosh. So seeing them and their interactions with Tom and just their interactions with each other, I loved all of it. Their comedic interactions I thought were really great. The jokes about the villains that they faced, and like Tobey having biological web shooters when the other two have the artificial. Tom is shocked they don't have the Avengers in their universes. All of those jokes landed. I liked every single joke with those three Spider-Men. But the main thing that I really liked about Tobey, Tom, and Andrew, the emotional, like, scenes that they have together. Specifically, the scene on the rooftop. Tom has, like, lost all hope after losing Aunt May, and Tobey and Andrew connect with him and, like, share about Uncle Ben and Gwen Stacy. That was such a great scene. Easily my favorite scene in the whole movie. That's one of the scenes where I almost cried. The other scene where I almost cried was when Strange was, like, erasing everyone's memory and Peter was saying goodbye to MJ and Ned. And then the scene where I did cry was Aunt May's death. That was such a powerful scene. So, talking about Aunt May's death, when I said that Green Goblin in this movie reminded me of Heath Ledger's Joker, what I mean by that is that both Joker in that movie and Green Goblin here are trying to make their hero become like them and go insane by killing someone that the hero loved. So, in The Dark Knight, that was Rachel, and here it's Aunt May. The way that, like, they had Green Goblin actually almost make Tom go off the deep end here, I think that was just really well done. Green Goblin was really good here, like, seriously. Yeah, I just thought that was really well done. There's just a lot of things in this movie that I'm saying are really well done, because this movie is really well done. I loved so much of what they did with this movie. It's a great movie. So let's talk about some of the post-credit scenes here. I've never really been that big of a fan of the first Venom movie. I honestly don't like it that much, and I haven't seen the second one yet. I am planning on watching it. I hear it's better than the first one. So the Venom cameo didn't really excite me that much. And I also thought that it was dumb that, like, Venom just got here, and now he's gone. But yeah, it's cool that the symbiote's there. That's probably going to come into play in Spider-Man 4. It was a cool post-credit scene. It didn't really excite me personally that much, though. And then the other post-credit scene, I mean, literally just having a trailer for Doctor Strange 2 was a bit much. But it was still a really good trailer. Like, that really excites me for what Doctor Strange 2 is going to have in store. So yeah, I really like the post-credit scenes. So one more thing, this is basically the last thing I'm going to talk about. I want to elaborate more on what I said earlier about the multiverse explanation being dumb. They say the reason all these villains are crossing over is because the spell is pulling in people who know Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here. I don't remember Electro ever learning that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. So how the heck did he cross over? Even weirder, in the Venom universe, Peter Parker Spider-Man doesn't even exist. So how the heck is Venom in here. The two of them showing up makes no sense based on the explanation that you gave us here. So yeah, that really annoyed me, and I wish they would have had a better explanation, because it just doesn't make sense. I still can get by that complaint. It doesn't bother me that much. So overall, I really liked this movie. This is an amazing movie. It's an amazing Spider-Man movie. Gosh, Spider-Man No Way Home is fantastic. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe, and comment down below if you've seen it. What did you think of Spider-Man No Way Home? I mean, you better have seen it, because if you're still here, you just sat through the spoiler section, and I told you not to, but whatever. Spider-Man No Way Home, great movie. See ya, movie fans.